Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I get excited always around food companies and interviewing food entrepreneurs. It's been in my blood since I was a teenager. And for those who don't know, a teenager in Montreal working in food distribution, and it's stayed with me most of my career. It's just a love of mine. So I'm looking forward to meeting this next entrepreneur who's an alumni from the same school as my business partner. It's Nipun Sharma, co-founder of and CEO of Appetronix, I think. Appetronix. We'll try again. So, welcome.
Thank you. Yes, it's a tough name. Maybe we need to reconsider, but it's a cross between appetite and robotics, so Appetronix.
Well, I'm sure I would get it after a while. You're dealing with someone with limited capacity. Tell us about the business.
Yeah, so I've been in the food business like you, Jeffrey, for almost 2 decades. I've been an entrepreneur. I've been a public company COO. I've expanded all kinds of restaurant brands all over the world. And I would say about 10 years ago, we started seeing labor as a problem. If you live in Canada, you recognize that Calgary was one of those places, Alberta, with the oil sands coming in, big attraction for hourly wage people. All of a sudden, there's a big vacuum. Line up at restaurants, but nobody's showing up to work. Restaurants were shutting down simply because there was no labor coming there. And this trend was happening kind of all over the world, especially in cities and countries with aging populations, and also a demographic shift. I think a generation ago, the first job for most young kids was at McDonald's. You make your money, learn some things about business, get some principles, and move on with your life. But I think now the young people, instead of doing that, prefer to start Facebook. So, and every other person in the socioeconomic ladder, I think people have better options than they did a generation ago. I'd rather drive an air-conditioned Uber than work at KFC. So we started seeing this trend where, especially in fast food, labor started becoming a problem. And then COVID came in, and that I think accelerated some realities of how the world's going to shift and change. And labor, comes back into focus. We keep talking about people earning a basic minimum wage. We increase salaries in California to $20. Now they're talking about $30 for restaurant workers in airports, which is great. I think people should be paid. I don't think restaurants are that avenue to make people rich. It's a tough business. It's a low margin business. There's not a whole lot of room to keep
There's not
doing
a lot
this.
of margin in the food industry.
And if you think about the biggest thing that's happened in our industry in the last, I don't know, 50 years is delivery, right? All of a sudden, everybody wants food delivered at home. The biggest sales increases, the biggest percentage increases are happening from delivery. And Jeff, you and I both know that nobody makes money from delivery, including delivery companies. So all of a sudden, you're giving 20, 25% to folks like Uber Eats when the restaurant is barely making a 5% margin, but that's the only place the growth is coming from. So that's the give, right? There's the demand keeps going up. Supply side economics do not make sense. How do we fill that gap? We can't keep increasing prices. You know how much an egg costs. I can't charge you $50 for an omelet. And that's where the disconnect comes between supply and demand. And I think that's where robotics has a place to play. So me being in the restaurant industry, being an advisor to food tech companies, I was seeing this trend happening about 10 years ago. I'm like, great, it's finally getting there. And I was working with some of the biggest companies in the world. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get some robots coming into our restaurant, make my life easier, fewer gray hair. I went on this, journey to see which of these robot companies I could work with. And Jeffrey, I met every single food robotic company in the world, and I came back supremely disappointed. I was completely surprised how these companies got funded. The business plan didn't make sense. I mean, there's a company that the entire business plan revolves around flipping a burger once. So we look at these things, they're cute to watch, but the unit economics don't make sense. They're not solving any problems. And I came back disappointed. I realized we're not quite there yet. And I'm not the technical guy. I had this vision of what I wanted to see, but nobody was delivering on that. I met my co-founders coincidentally around this time, around 4 or 5 years ago. And I'm like, listen, you guys are robotic engineers. I have this idea. Do you think that's possible? And that's how we started our journey. Like, how do we automate portions? How do we make the unit economics work? How do we make fast food accessible and inexpensive, open 24/7 in any real estate, in any country, in any city? And that was the foundation for the journey we started with Appetronix.
I mean, it's a good story, but if I'm looking at the picture behind you, you've made the story into reality. And What is
Right.
the reality today? What is that that I'm seeing? I assume that's the Dorval Airport in Montreal, but who knows?
Close enough. Close enough. So when we did this initially, I was looking at some of the hardest part in a restaurant to automate, and we said, okay, let's automate this section of the restaurant. But then we came to a realization that kitchens are designed for human beings. Let's say an average human being, 5'4" let me design a kitchen so they don't hurt themselves and they can perform to the best of their abilities. So when you look at an inefficient human kitchen, two legs, two hands, and design something to make this slightly better, you're optimizing inefficiency. So we're like, we can't use a human hand movement as an inspiration. Let's go on first principles. Here's the raw materials. Here's what the finished product looks like. How do we go from A to B? Really using the best in automation, best in AI, best in robotics without any boundaries and limitations of an existing kitchen. So as we decided to automate the back of the house, COVID gave us an interesting opportunity. We're like, well, what if I put a cool looking sleeve on top, make it look like a vending machine from the outside? I don't need to be inside a restaurant anymore. I can be anywhere, like an airport. So we started this journey, I would say about 4 years ago. We created our first prototype, and it makes Asian bowls. Think about, pad thais or green curry with rice, a complex machine. We managed to convince people that we have the talent and the team and the vision and the idea to make it work. And based on that, we raised more capital, some sophisticated venture capitals, lead investors, Ali Corp in New York. We have celebrity chefs like Tom Colicchio as investors. So between some really heavyweights in the industry, some of the best people in technology, my co-founder with tremendous amount of experience in robotics and automation, and a lot of partners that came not just as support for our company, but investors in our company too. We managed to, consolidate our business plan. So long story short, we are launching next month at the airport in Columbus, Ohio, with Donato's Pizza. And for folks that don't know, Donato's Pizza is considered the best pizza chain in the US. Donato's Pizza used to be owned by McDonald's, just like Chipotle was, just like Pret a Manger was. In the late 90s, McDonald's identified the best in every category, and they wanted to invest in these companies. Chipotle, as you know, went public. It's the second most valuable restaurant brand in the world, worth $80 billion. And Donato's family, the Grody family in Columbus, Ohio, bought the company back from McDonald's and continued to run it as a private company. So the best tasting pizza, for us, that was critical. We're launching in Columbus, in Ohio. Ohio is the birthplace of the airport and birthplace of the planes. That's where the Wright brothers invented the plane, and the world's first airport is in Ohio. The best pizza brand, the story writes itself. So we provided this automation to ensure that we are making the best pizza in the world. And that's what I sort of, my pitch is, we're not selling machines, we're selling food. We're selling the best food. Who makes the food? Who cares? As long as the food delivers on the experience and expectation of the customer. So this is the machine that we've created. The machine is designed, it's complete, it's going through its final certification process, and we're hoping to ship it out mid-March, and it'll be live a week or two after that. And you'll have the Donato's Pizza coming out of a fully autonomous robotic machine.
Have you received, it's easy to get criticism. I understand that. Have you received resistance from, let's say, airport employees who see you as being a competitor to them, or the kiosks in airports? Is there some of that? Is some of that political for you?
I was expecting some of this stuff because, you go through every scenario and learn how to respond to it. The reality is, and especially after COVID, I would say a big percentage of airport restaurants have yet to open. And the ones that are open are opening for limited hours. In the US, there's $2 million jobs unfulfilled in the hospitality industry. Something that used to be open 24/7, now open for like 5 hours a day. So we're not taking anything away. We're filling a big, huge, massive gap that nobody can fill. So we're basically complementing what's already there. So, for example, the Columbus, Ohio airport has a Donato's Pizza in Terminal A and Terminal C. There's none in Terminal B. And now we're going to add that in Terminal B. So we're really adding as opposed to subtracting from what's already out there.
And this is cooked fresh inside this operation?
Oh, absolutely. It's made to order. You can adjust the recipe to your liking, to your tastes. And that's critical. I think the difference between like a frozen pizza which everybody loves, and a freshly baked pizza from a restaurant is the freshly baked stuff. That is the difference.
Dramatically
I can give you the
different.
same ingredient, dramatically different. Anything that's baked, anything that's fried, especially, you can't have it pre-made. So this had to deliver on a restaurant experience, not a grocery store frozen pizza experience.
Oh, this is great. I wish I could talk to you longer. You're going to have to come back and tell us again how the launch goes, because we're already running out of time. For me, it's very exciting to see what you're talking about. If someone wants to know more about the company, wants to connect with you, talk with you, how do they find it?
Oh, the best place is either LinkedIn or our website. It's Appetronix, so Appetronix.com.
That's great. And I want to thank you for being on the show today. Again, I hope you come back as we start to roll out more products, hear more about this. It's a game changer. And thanks for being on Radio Entrepreneurs.